Good morning. Brother Chad Long, Delhi Baptist Church here. We picked back up into our study into Ruth, and it's not been very encouraging of a story so far, and I understand that. These videos are intended to try to help us get through tough times, and hopefully more than just a virus, other tough times that we're dealing with. But sometimes the scriptures require us to be real, to think about life and things that can take place and how we would handle certain conflict that we're going to encounter. In order to encourage us, we have to first realize that sometimes life doesn't go the way we want it to go. Sometimes it's because of poor decisions we make, like in the case of Ruth's family. Sometimes it has nothing to do with our decisions. It has to do with decisions of others in our lives. I don't blame, you can't blame Ruth. You can't blame Naomi. Naomi was following her husband, and Ruth was born in Moab. She didn't have any choice. Orpah didn't either, to an extent. So we need to realize that sometimes the things that happen to us have nothing to do with decisions we make. Sometimes it does. And either way, there's the only light in any situation, the only true light is Christ. And he is pictured in various ways throughout this book. So we left off, well, we're going to back up a little bit, but we left off in the middle of chapter 1, and I'm going to pick up in verse 8. The Bible says, Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, "Go and return each to her mother's house. The Lord deal kindly with you, as you have dealt with the dead and with me." So Naomi, what she's saying is, I pray that the Lord's good to you, and I want you to go home, be with your family, and find new husbands, and go on with your life. And in her own way, she's saying, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that this has happened to you. You both have been good women to me, good daughters-in-law to me, and I hate this has happened. You've lost your husbands. I've lost my husband and my sons, and I just want you to go home and start over, and I pray God is with you. And there's nothing wrong with any of that. It's just interesting as we look at what happens, how different people deal with tragedy. I've never lost a spouse. I've never lost a child. I hope and pray I never do. You're not supposed to outlive your kids, but some people do. Some people lose their children. Some people lose their spouses. And we all deal with these things in different ways, but you've got to have some trust in the Lord. And you've got to just do. Sometimes when, the best advice I give anyone is when you don't know what to do what you know to do. And I try to live by that. Sometimes I don't know what to do. I'm not supposed to say that. I'm supposed to lead by example, and I'm supposed to have the answers. I'm not supposed to ever say, man, I don't know. But when I don't know what to do, I do what I know to do. I follow the Lord. I trust the Lord. I go where I know I'm supposed to be. Naomi here is going home. She doesn't know what to do. She lost her husband. She's lost 2 sons. And all she knows to do now is do what she knows. Go home. Go back to the land of bread, which is Bethlehem, the house of bread. Go back to Judah. Go back to her family, and just find that fellowship she had with the Lord and with her family back in her land. Verse 9, she says, "The Lord grant you that you may find rest, each of you in the house of her husband." And she kissed them, and they lifted up their voices and wept. And again, there's nothing wrong with any of that. It's just a picture of her loving them and them loving her, and her wishing them all the best. And her heart goes out to them for the tragedy that they've all experienced here, from different perspectives. Something else before I move on. We always need to be mindful of the perspective of other people. See, what Naomi's going through, as tragic as it is not the only perception here. Orpah lost a husband, and now she's losing a mother-in-law. Ruth lost a husband, and now she's losing a mother-in-law potentially. And so how I feel about something, how you feel about something is not always the only way to look at something. There's other people involved, and minding their feelings and their desires and their hopes and dreams and futures is something we're supposed to do as Christians. We're supposed to bear ye one another's burdens, the Bible says. So anyway, verse 10, and they said to her, surely we will return with thee unto thy people. And I think they meant that. They were willing to go with her, both of them. They loved her. And when you love somebody, you're willing to follow them anywhere. But they're not thinking this through. And there is, in a small way, there's a picture here of commitment. Commitment to Christ, commitment to a family member, commitment to a job, commitment to anything. When my wife and I moved to Delhi, we committed. And we're there to follow the Lord and to serve the people and to lead by example. Sometimes when you make a commitment, you make it during an emotional experience. And sometimes it's hard to really mean it and you don't even know it. I've done that. I regret to tell you that I've stepped out when I'm feeling a certain way and said things that later I thought, man, I can't back this up. I didn't really mean it. I said it in the moment, and now these people are counting on me, and this isn't really where I want to be and what I want to do. I've done that before. I think we all have. And you're about to see that both of these women are willing to go with her, but one of them is committed to her, and the other, it was just something she felt in the moment. I think they both loved Naomi. I really do. And I think when people make a commitment for Jesus, initially they really think they mean it, but you find out later, some people are committed and some people are not. So they said, surely we will return with thee unto thy people. And Naomi said, turn again, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Are there yet any more sons in my womb, that they may be your husbands? Now one thing that Naomi has learned in her life is how to be realistic and reasonable. Sometimes that's hard to do when you're young. So you just feel a certain way, and that's how you feel. But we all have to have that ability to think beyond our feelings, because your feelings cannot run you. And if they do, they'll run you in all the wrong directions. We've got to be able to use the intelligence God gave us and look at the situation we're dealing with and try to trust in Him and trust in what He's taught us and not just go off how we feel. I may not feel like doing something. In fact, this morning I've got a job to do I don't feel like doing, but I know that it needs to be done, and I'm committed to doing it. That's another matter. But anyway, she's saying, I don't have any sons in my womb. I don't plan to probably ever have kids again. I've got nothing else to offer you. That's her way of saying, you just go home. I've got nothing else to give you. I've got no way to make your lives full and fulfill the needs that you may have. And so verse 12, she says, turn again, go your way. I am too old to have a husband. If I should say I have hope, if I should have a husband also tonight, and should bear sons, would you tarry for them till they were grown? Would you stay for them from having husbands? Nay, my daughters, for it grieveth me much for your sakes that the hand of the Lord has gone out against me. Now what she's saying is, look, I don't have anything to offer you. I'm going home broke. I'm going home in despair. I'm going home alone. I don't have anything to give. I love you, but I don't have anything to offer you. And she's saying, even if I did, even if in my heart I believed I might remarry, even if in my heart I believed I might have 2 more sons, are you ladies going to wait for another 20, 30 years until that child is grown and able to marry you? I mean, it doesn't make sense. Even if you were willing to wait and I was able to have those children, there's no guarantees. And even then, there's no guarantee they would marry you. Maybe they'd want somebody younger. She's just trying to be logical. She's trying to be logical. She's trying to show some good reasoning skills and help them to do the same. Because again, everybody's emotional. Everybody's crying. Parting's not fun. Especially when you already feel like you've lost someone dear to you, and now Now you're having to part ways with somebody else you care about. It's just a difficult situation all the way around. I mean, one good thing happening here is Naomi is looking at the big picture and trying to be logical. So verse 14 says, and by the way, you'll notice that she says, it grieves me much for your sakes, not for my own sake. She's saying, I can deal with the fact that the Lord may not like the decisions we've made and how that affects me. But she said, it grieves me much for your sakes that the hand of the Lord's gone out against me. Now, remember that Ruth and Orpah have done nothing wrong that we know of. So she's grieving for them that they're having to deal with this. And that now without husbands, they're stuck with this decision and the fact that they have to part with it. Verse 14 says, they lifted up their voice and wept again, and Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clave unto her. Now they're about to make commitment decisions. Who really means what they're saying here, and who's just saying what they're feeling? Who's willing to go the distance, take the chance, deal with whatever comes, and just love beyond reason? There's an old country song by Alan Jackson. It's called Living on Love. And some people believe they can do that. They can just love, and wherever that takes them, that's just what they're going to do. Now, it's not very reasonable. But some people just have that kind of faith. They're just going to do what they feel is right, even when there's no rhyme or reason to it. I think that missionaries do a very similar thing. They love the Lord. They want to serve the Lord. They know that they could be killed in a foreign country, but they just trust Him. And that's the one time when it's okay to follow that type of feeling is when it's love for the Lord. I wouldn't advise that in just about any other aspect of life. I'll give you another example, and I'm going to get slammed for this, but it's the truth. With this coronavirus thing, it was probably not logical or reasonable for me to say, we're not closing the church. We're not going to stop having services. We'll try to be more cautious. We'll try to keep our hands clean and keep a little distance, but we're not closing. And there's going to be those who say, Chad, that's not the way you handle that, man. Somebody could get sick, and maybe you're not worried about getting it, but you could give it to somebody else. And believe me, that's burden to me. I know that. But there's just this faith in the Lord I have, and this love for this church that I have, and I couldn't just go crawl in a hole somewhere. I told somebody it'd be easy for me to just lay up on Sundays and watch my favorite westerns or sports or anything, movies, binge on movies or something, but I can't do that. I wish that dog would hush. But look, I don't know what more to say except to say this: where the Lord's concerned, when you sincerely feel a certain way toward Him, it's fine to follow that and have faith in that. But be careful with emotion. Be careful with things done because of an emotional response, because we run the risk of allowing our emotions to carry us places we don't really want to be. And so what we look at here is they lift up their voice and they weep again. Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clave unto her. That means she wrapped her arms around her. She wasn't letting her go. Orpah's willing to kiss her goodbye. Ruth's saying, I'm not letting go of you. And she backs it up here. And I'm going to try to finish and close with this. And she said, behold, thy sister-in-law is gone back unto her people and unto her gods. Return thou after thy sister-in-law. Which lets us know Orpah walks off the pages of Scripture here. She goes home. And Ruth will not. And Naomi's trying to talk good sense into her. But when you've made up your mind and you're committed, there shouldn't be anybody able to talk you out of it. When you know you're doing the right thing, don't let people talk you out of it. I've had that happen to me. When I surrendered to preach, there were those who came along and said, Chad, you said something, this. There'll be times when you'll struggle even to survive. This is not what you're supposed to. You don't do this. But I knew it's what God wanted me to do. And once I had made up my mind, there was no turning back. There is no turning back for me. That's one example. There's others. But let me move on. She says, go back home, like your sister-in-law did. Ruth said, entreat me not to leave thee. In other words, don't make me. You know, it's one thing when you left it up to me as a choice. Don't force me not to do what I feel in my heart is right. And you should never, and I said this when COVID-19 started, we didn't close the church, but I'm not asking anybody to go against their own convictions. I didn't say, you guys have to be here or else. If nobody had come to church, I was still going to keep the doors open. If nobody else had wanted to serve the Lord and be there with me, if they wanted to serve from home, I'm not saying not serve the Lord, but if they had not wanted to come and do it in the way that we had been doing it, and they wanted to stay home or do something different or watch services online, that's fine. I wasn't making anybody do anything. I was following my convictions, and that's what Ruth is saying here. She's saying, entreat me not to leave thee, or return from following after thee, for whither thou goest, I will go. And where thou lodgest, I will lodge. Thy people shall be my people, and thy God my God. Where thou diest will I die, and there will I be buried. The Lord do so to me, and more also, if aught but death part thee and me. And when she saw she was steadfastly minded to go with her, she left speaking unto her. And so they two went until they came to Bethlehem. Now I'm going to stop there for a moment. Actually, I'm going to stop there for today. And I want you to notice something. When you make up your mind and you decide this is what you're going to do, you stand by your convictions and you don't let anything change. If you know you're doing right by the Lord and the people around you, you can't let people talk you out of it. If they can talk you out of it, then you weren't serious to begin with. Let's make up our minds. I want you to get this out of this. This is the most positive thing I can tell you, and this is sincerely important for all of you to understand. When you study the Bible, when you follow after God, you make up your mind what it is He's called you to do. If you're a Sunday school teacher, be a Sunday school teacher. When COVID-19 hits, find another way to reach your students. If you're a song leader, if you're just one that's good at giving to the ministry in other ways, if you're somebody who likes to send cards. We had a lady in our church years ago, her big thing was cards. She loved to send cards to people. That's all she did. But you know what? It was a blessing when people received those cards. I know ladies that their thing is they like to call and check on people. I know ladies who all they want to do is pray for people. Whatever it is God puts you to do, you don't let anything stop you. You continue to do what God calls you to do until such time as He comes to get you, because there's no retirement in the plan of the Lord. And He will bless that. We're going to see in this story how God blesses Ruth, because she makes up her mind that what she feels in her heart, she's going to back it up with faith and with action. It's one thing to say, I don't want to leave you, I want to stay with you. And then when troubles come, you say, all right, well, that was good while it lasted. God sees that. And He honors us accordingly. So be steadfastly minded. You say you love the Lord, follow Him with all your heart. You say you love the Lord, put your trust in Him. Walk with Him. Love Him. He loves you. You guys have a great day. God bless you.